There it is. We are
There it
live,
is.
Taylor.
Hello.
Nice, nice. I just had to share the stuff here to our
Mhm.
socials, and then we will jump right into the show. But as you guys that are watching on Second City Gridiron can see, no JB. JB is on vacation this week, so we got Taylor Dahl, host of Making Monsters, kind of step in and kind of help us out, which is going to be awkward for me because I am not used to running things over here.
I
So,
believe
but
in you, Lester. I
I
believe.
appreciate it. I appreciate it. So let me just get this shared here to our socials, and then we will start our podcast. And then after the show, like always, we're going to stick around and answer some questions from you guys here on the video side of things, exclusive. Let's see here. There's this. And cha 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 cha. Yeah, usually Jeff's doing some banter stuff while I'm doing all this
Yeah,
share stuff here. So it's all good though. We got
it's all
this
right.
under control. So
Yeah,
you're
we.
in Florida. You're
I.
also you have like dual citizenship, right? Because you're
Yeah.
Bears number
Yes.
one, but then you're also
Yes.
following the Jaguars. That's got to be cool because the Jags are they're looking good this year.
Yeah. It's fun to finally watch winning football because obviously the Jags have kind of been through similar situations of Chicago of a lot of losing. Honestly, more losing if people even want to believe that. But so it is fun. It's interesting because the whole offseason everyone was very vocal that it was going to be like super high powered offense and they were going to be scoring 35 plus a game, and it hasn't been that whatsoever. It's been a lot of defense coming in, and Trevor like doing enough to win the football game. So I think people here are kind of waiting for the offense to click the way they thought it was going to be, but they'll get there. Calvin Ridley is still trying to learn the playbook and things like that, and you can see some miscommunications there. But I really do think once that starts settling, they're gonna be dangerous because the defense is playing lights out right now.
Yeah, I was telling Jeff, I think it was last week, the week before that, if the Bears keep going the way they were going, and it was looking bad for a while there, I'm gonna have to find me an AFC team to kind of have like a side team, just kind of shoot once in a while. So, but that's cool though. I mean, it's good that you have a chance to kind of follow both teams. But let's get this podcast
Yeah.
started here. All right, so let me write. I gotta write this down. The timestamp. Where the hell's the time? I don't know how to do this stuff. Man, I got to get Jeff back
Well,
on
it's
this.
showing 2:33 where I see in the top
Where the
left.
hell do you see it? I
So on
can't
my
see it.
screen, it's on the top left. There's
Oh
like a
man.
live, and it has a little ticker on there.
All right, we'll figure it out. I'm good enough here. All right, here we go. Welcome into Bear and Balance. As you guys can hear and see, JB is on vacation this week. My name is Lester Wiltfong, editor-in-chief of Windy City Gridiron, and we have a special guest because sitting in as guest host this week is Taylor Dahl, host of our Making Monsters show. Taylor, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good. Ready to talk about a win. We get a Monday victory Monday. I'm always good with those.
We don't get very many of these. I know me
I
and
know.
Jeff always talk about that. Since we've been doing the show, just haven't had a lot of chance to be happy.
I know.
Last year was a challenge, obviously 3 wins, but it was kind of exciting. This year was kind of rough, but now it's 2 wins in their last 3 weeks. Do you think the
Yes.
Bears are turning a corner here?
I I really feel it. I feel like, and just when we look at the games also that were kind of close, like the Vikings game obviously was a complete disaster, but even that you had the chance to win it.
Yeah,
And then when you go back, the two games that really kind of frustrate me, obviously Tampa, I was at that game watching what could have happened towards the end. Them driving down, and then obviously Claypool penalty backed them up, and then the 75th screen pass of the game didn't work. But that was a winnable game, and there's certain ones like that you're like, man, they're in grasp to win, and they're not even playing lights out great football. You're seeing good things every now and then. So if things can just kind of continue to click, and you are seeing the defense look a little more comfortable, they're starting to mesh a little bit, so that's good. And now, obviously, we're playing without Justin Fields. Not totally sure the length of that, but I think we have a pretty solid backup to come in and at least hold it down until Justin comes back.
yeah, I'm sure we'll get into more Tyson Bagent stuff in a bit, but as we always do here on the show, we are starting the trenches with our Trench tribute. And Taylor, since you are our guest host this week, I'm gonna let you start. So, who is your Trench tribute this week?
I think I have to go Tevin Jenkins.
Yes.
Tevin, I've mentioned it on my podcast many times. I think when I've been on with you guys, I've mentioned it. I love Tevin Jenkins. He's probably my favorite Bear, like outside of when you want to say, I guess, Justin Fields, and you love DJ Moore. But to me, like Tevin is just, he's the ideal lineman that you want. Obviously, you want him to stay healthy, and I really hope that he can kind of go on a streak of staying healthy and staying on the football field, because when he's out there, the line looks like a different world, and it's so much fun to watch him. I love him, the way he protects the quarterback, the way that he seems like he just has fun, and he also will play anywhere. Like, you stick him anywhere on the line, and you're gonna fake, like Tevin Jenkins is gonna do the job. And so this last week, I mean, it's just, since he's been back, he's been lights out, I feel like, and it was fun to watch. He had a block like up to help for a long run. Was it Foreman run or is it an Evans run? I can't remember, but a long run at one point where Tevin's just trucking guys like down.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, like, this is what I want to see. If we had 5 Tevin Jenkins on the line, that would be ideal. But yeah, so I think I have to go Tevin, because I just think what we've seen since he's came back and this last week, I think the line as a whole played pretty decently. But he's just kind of that anchor there, and it's hard not to point that out.
I was so annoyed when it came out that he was in a switch over from left to right for Cody Whitehair.
Yeah.
But it worked out. I mean, he was comfortable going back to right guard. Cody Whitehair looked pretty good playing left guard. Yeah, I think at this point, Cody Whitehair's career is clearly not a center.
Definitely.
It's not going to work for him. So, I get it. You want to start your best 5 go in there. So if this is what it's going to have to be going forward, if you are going to have to go with, at least with Nate Davis, a high ankle sprain, he's going to miss a few more games. If Tevin Jenkins has the ability to go back and forth, I think that's a plus for them. I just hope that when Nate Davis comes back, they don't play these games and put Tevin Jenkins on a bench. Tevin Jenkins is clearly the best guy.
Yeah.
He needs to be in there no matter what. So for me, I'm going to go a little unconventional, and I have to do it this week because this is the tight end national holiday day was the other day. So I'm going to go with Mercedes Lewis. He's not an actual trench guy, but he's here to block. That's why he's in here. He had the nice 16-yard catch, obviously down the sideline. But I went back and watched the game, and he was in quite a bit for pass blocking. He did a good job there. Run blocking, he just has that incredible technique and strength where once he locks on, it's over. So I had to go tight end this week. Mercedes Lewis is my trench tribute. Did you have a chance to watch him block much during the game?
I loved it, and it's obviously being here in Jacksonville. He's a former
Jacksonville,
so people love Mercedes, love him here. And so the moment, like, we're at the where we were watching the game, and everyone around, when he made the catch, they were like, everyone's like, Mercedes, what? And I didn't even know he was on Chicago. I was like, yeah. I was like, but I was getting so frustrated last week with the amount they were blitzing and not using him more up front that I was like, I don't understand why Mercedes isn't here like on every snap pretty much to help block, because that's what he is. That's the type of tight end he is. And to be able to use him, and you saw it, how much it helped this last week. Granted, we saw Tyson get the ball out very quickly. I don't think we're used to that. Usually with Justin, he kind of takes his time in making reads and figuring things out. And the one thing with Justin, I think a lot of people notice, is he's that guy that always wants the big play. And it hurts him sometimes. But with Tyson being able to get that ball out quickly, probably even made the line look even better. So that was really fun. But yeah, Mercedes, he's just that guy that you want. When he's out there and you would see him lined up to help block, I was like, oh, we're good. Like, this play is going to work out, because when Lewis is out there, it's just, again, it's that you add that extra blocker. Especially we talk about it. Darnell Wright's playing really well this season, especially for a rookie. Max Crosby is an animal. And so he's had some tests to go up against. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with throwing an extra blocker out there to help him out a little bit. And it really, like, the offense was running smooth because of that.
Yeah, a lot of times teams will bring in a 6 offensive linemen, but the Bears, it's a luxury. They have Mercedes Lewis comes in. He has those type of skills. He snuck out there for that one catch. It was a really nice, well-designed play. Luke Getsy did a good job there getting him schemed up for that catch, and Bagent found him. Let's move on to our sweet tweets. So this wonderful world of Twitter, or X, whatever it's called these days. So what is the tweet that you want to highlight this week?
Yeah, so I sent you one. It was from Greg Braggs, and he's been on, I think, all of our podcasts at some point on Winning City Gridiron. But so he said the Bears hadn't won a game at home in 392 days. They just won today, and to me, that was just a good feeling, number one, because you want to win at home. But I do think that also we're starting to check off some boxes of bad streaks. And we saw a lot of bad streaks being held for a long time when it comes to, at first, just a win in general. And then now you had that can't win at home still kind of hovering over you. All of those things are kind of slowly starting to be checked off. The primetime football game, you get a win on Thursday night. Now I think the next kind of box to check off is win a divisional game. Because that's I think that's important. But to me, it just kind of showed like how long we've been waiting, and I'm so happy that like Tyson Bagent was able to come in and do this at Soldier Field because the home team needed it. And once you start, and I saw it happen here in Jacksonville too, like once you start checking off these little boxes of streaks that were hovering over your head, things kind of, it feels free. It feels like you're having fun again. And you could see that this last 3 weeks, like you said, 2 wins in 3 weeks. And you could tell that the team's even morale has kind of like started to shift a little bit. So it's fun. It's fun to see a win at Soldier Field again.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Jags. I mean, they had a similar path to the Bears. They were really bad for a couple years in a row. It just started clicking for them. They got things figured out there. So hopefully the Bears are on that path. We'll kind of see how things go. The next step is getting 2 in a row. I mean, that'll be really big for this coaching staff. So for me, for my tweets, I'm going to stay in the CHCO family.
Okay.
I got a tweet from Will DeWitt. Talk about a defensive resurgence. The Bears cut down their allowed rushing yards from 365 in weeks 1 through 3 to a mere 211 in weeks 4 through 7. It's 52.8 yards per game. This defense, all of a sudden, you look at it, and it was like, they were really bad early, but these last few weeks, has the defense turned a corner here, do you think?
I do. And I think like there was a lot of newness on that line, and we talked about it a lot. I think obviously the pass rush is still lacking. You're not getting to the quarterback, but at least they're able to really stop the run. And it's so funny because the whole offseason we were like, they're signing Yannick Ngakoue, who literally cannot stop the run whatsoever. Yeah. So like maybe it'll help the pass rush, but the run is still going to be struggling. And it's almost like the complete opposite right now. So it's kind of funny. But I do think a lot of that is the rotation that they have been doing. We've seen a lot more Javon Dexter as weeks have gone. Zach Pickens, he's making plays. There was some concern the first few weeks where it looked like he was not going to cut it out there. But I think the way that they have the rotation it's ideal, and they're really starting to click together. And I think that it's fun because obviously last year we felt like every game whoever we were playing was rushing 200 plus on us every single game. So really to be able to limit that and almost shut down the run games is really forcing quarterbacks to have to get rid of the ball and throw the ball and test some of the secondary that now finally is getting healthy. Fun seeing Kyler Gordon out there again. Obviously, Jalen had his day, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But it's just fun to finally have some help up front, and that is going to kind of trickle back to now the linebackers. Now we're seeing Tremaine really be able to pop in certain moments. TJ Edwards on his way to a tackle record, and then now obviously that's helping the secondary too. So once you start, that front really has to start meshing, and once they start clicking, it could be honestly a pretty good defense.
Well, this is the key. I mean, Coach Eberflus talked about, he had to get his guys in place. The Bears went for linebackers in free agency, which is a lot of teams are kind of shying away from those. Or like the running backs, they kind of find them anywhere. But the Bears had some guys they wanted. They wanted to get those 2 guys in there. The guys they signed, you mentioned, they're more known for run stopping. Andrew Billings, Javon Dexter, they drafted. Pickens, DeMarcus Walker. The one pass rusher they brought in was Ngakoue. Hasn't really got home much, but part of it is if you can stop the run, make teams one-dimensional, and then your offense can put some points up. Now you can actually get after the quarterback and start going after him, and that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the Bears get a couple sacks. You're getting a little more pressure than he used to get. So if this defense turns it around, who knows? I mean, the Bears fans love their defense anyway, so that's kind of what we all love to see that stuff. But it's exciting. It's an exciting time for the Bears right now.
It is, and I think that even guys that we saw struggle big time, and Justin Jones, the start of the season, he gets home yesterday finally, and those are when you start usually seeing the clumps of that type of stuff happen. So I really do hope we are hitting that corner of teams are, like you said, if we're playing with some leads, start rushing, start sending some guys a little more, and that's when you will see Jan start making those plays. And he's kind of been that guy almost his whole career. Like once he gets one, there's going to come a few more pretty close to that. And that's kind of like always how he's played. So that's just get him there once. And I think that we're just continuously improving. And like I said, when you look at this line, it's almost entirely new from last season. So I think it was taking a bit. It was taking a bit to know like how they wanted to rotate, where they really wanted these guys at, because Javon Dexter, one thing we talked about constantly in the offseason, and I know in my podcast when I talked about Dexter's, he was more of like a three tech type of guy, and he's playing, they're lining him up again across from the center a lot at like one tech, which is very interesting because he like never did that at Florida. But it's working, and you're seeing him at least create some sort of pressure, maybe not getting home, but there's some QB hits there, and once those start happening, it's eventually they're going to get to him.
Yeah, I think it's coming. I do want to see more Javon Dexter. I think he deserves more playing time. And I know the Pro Football Focus, that they're very, very favorable with the grades he's been getting lately. So, but like you said, Justin Jones is coming around. He's playing much better late. So it's a good problem to have if all these guys start popping and start making some plays, plus the secondary's healthy again. So that's definitely a good thing. So let's move on to our Caught Up in a Numbers game. This is a stat or a number from the week that we kind of saw that we want to highlight. So what do you got?
So I'm going to give you two numbers real quick. These two numbers are 103 and 71. Okay. So Tevin Jenkins, we talked about him already, but I have to mention some numbers about this because he's played 174 snaps since he came back from injury, 103 at left guard, 71 at right guard. He's allowed 0 sacks, only 2 pressures, 1 penalty, 7th best pass blocking grade in the NFL, according to PFF right now. So all of those, I mean, just the versatility of Tevin it's such a major thing, especially with some of the injuries that we have on the line and them trying to kind of figure things out, and to have somebody that you can move left, right, wherever you need him, and him be able to be successful. And I think also just helps the guys around him so much when he's, aside from rookie and Darnell Wright, and obviously Larry Borum has struggled. But
a little bit,
but you did feel like when Tevin was beside Larry that there was a little bit more comfortability on that side of the line. So I just think when you see something like that, the versatility and the health is major. But when you have somebody like that who is not allowing anybody to touch your quarterback, it's just definitely a major positive.
Yeah, I like those numbers. Tevin Jenkins, man, we talk about it. He's so fun to watch. You know, I'm like you. He's one of my favorite Bears to watch. The skill guys are nice, but I want to have that nasty offensive lineman that just gets after it. And like you said, there were several plays yesterday where he was just kind of downfield looking for stuff to hit. When he was in the passing game, when he had no one on him, he was looking for someone to block. That he likes doing it. He likes hitting people. He likes being aggressive. He just got to stay healthy. If he stays healthy, I think he's going to be here and be eventually in a Pro Bowl. So I have two numbers too. My number is 17 and then 2.1. For 17, that's the longest play from scrimmage from the Bears yesterday. That was Deontay Foreman's 17-yard screen play. And the Athletics' Kevin Fishbane actually had a fun fact that he pulled off True Media Sports. The Bears are just the third team since 2013 to score 30 points in a game without a 20-yard play.
Wow.
So just the dink and dunk kind of offense there worked. And my other number is 2.1. And that's the air yards per attempt in the win over the Raiders. It's the shortest average depth by a qualified quarterback in a game this year from Tyson Bagent. That's according to Next Gen Stats. So he was just taking what the defense gave him. Check down when it was there, going through his progressions, taking the smart play. And there's nothing wrong with that. No. And that's going to lead us into our Fields report, or in this case, it's the Bagent report, because Tyson Bagent, he was out there. He got the start, obviously. He went 21 of 29, 72.4%, 162 yards passing, 1 touchdown, pass rating of 97.2, 3 runs for 24 yards. So we're talking a little bit pre-show. The Bears get a win. And social media, sports talk radio, it's like they're trying to make it a Bagent versus Fields argument. It's like, let's just enjoy the win. Tyson Bagent did what he had to do. Did you like what you saw out of Bagent in his first start?
I did. I think he was doing a lot of good things. And one of the major things that kind of popped out to me was something that we had struggled with in the start of the season, and that's converting third downs. And you take it how you can get it. And there was just, especially the first 3 weeks, it felt like we could not convert a third down to save our lives. And yesterday they were moving the ball, and he was using a lot of options too. It wasn't like you felt like he had like a comfort blanket or security blanket and was just getting it to somebody. He was using everybody. And this is obviously, you have two backup running backs technically in the game with Darrington Evans and Deontay Foreman, who both played very well, but getting them involved in multiple ways. You saw some Tyler Scott this week, which that was fun because I feel like we haven't seen a whole ton of that. So to get him kind of involved is great. And then obviously being able to use DJ and Mooney, it was just nice to be able to see him get all of them involved in the offense. And I feel like we've had weeks where it was not that. Even last week when we were watching it and it was DJ Moore had 5 yards in the first half and we were like, I don't even understand what's happening. But then there's other games. I think it was the couple it might've been the Thursday game where Mooney didn't even have a reception. And I'm like, I don't understand how we have you have weapons. You finally have these guys that you can get it to multiple people. Let's do that. And I think Bagent did that well. Like you said, a lot of dinking and dunking, but that was moving the ball. And they figured out that using that, really being able, Foreman, crushed it this week, and being able to have him come out and really be able to, they're scared. They didn't want Foreman to take off for another 10, 15 yards. So they were really kind of focusing on that, which gave Bagent the opportunity to convert some first downs, third downs, all of those things. And it just looked fluid, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't like you were like, wow, that was an amazing throw, but you felt like it was consistent through the 4 quarters. And I feel like we haven't seen a lot of that either.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun game, obviously, not a lot of big throws downfield, but he did what the defense gave him. It'll be interesting to see what happens next week against the Chargers, because now they've seen him, willing to check down. Are they going to kind of tighten their zones up? Are they going to have some more plays to open deep? I think he has a strong enough arm to kind of, test the defense if it's there. I don't think he's going to force things. He's not going to like test his arm like Jay Cutler, just really, just force it in there. But I think he's smart enough to know what he has to do with the ball.
Yeah.
It's exciting. If the Bears got an undrafted free agent, and if he's going to be here for the next, 3 or 4 years as your backup, or, who knows what happens next year. But if he's the guy, that's great, a great asset, a great allocation of your fund. You don't got to spend too much money on that position, where we've seen so many times these last few years, they go out and spend, $2-3 million on Trevor Siemian, PJ Walker, Chase Daniel, just spending a ton of money on that backup spot. And now here they are. They finally have a guy, whoever's coaching next year. I'm not sure who it's going to be, but there's finally a guy that's in Chicago that you have a pretty reasonable price tag on. That you trust, and he comes in and he'll do his job. So no complaints.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that for them, it was just fun. It's fun to see someone come in and obviously be successful. At the end of the day, we want the Bears to win. How that happens, let it happen. At this point, a win for us is a win. And I think for him too, I just did my Tyson Bagent Making Monsters this last week, and talking to both his high school and college offensive coordinator, both of them said very similar things when it comes to his accuracy. He very, very accurate, very good at making his reads, very good at going through his progressions. We talked about his arm strength a little bit, and they both had positive things to say about the arm strength. We're still kind of waiting to see that, because we didn't really see, like you said, past 15 yards or whatever his longest throw. And I think that was even like some yak yards with that. But they also, one of the things they mentioned was his ability to be mobile too. And we saw a little bit of it. I think 24 yards rushing he ended up having, but they just said at Shepherd, they didn't run him a lot because they didn't want him to get hurt. But it's definitely an option. He's able to do it. They just didn't do it in college a ton. And you saw a little bit of it this last week. You also saw moments where you felt like Justin probably would have taken off for 10, 15 yards in certain plays, and Tyson instead was taking a check down, getting a first down. We're good with that. So it's going to be interesting to watch this, like you said, how teams are going to start game planning around him, because there's multiple things that you're going to have to look at with Tyson Bagent, and you have now 1 game of film. But let's see how much they can open things even more this next week, and how much they trust him. That's also going to be part of this game right now, is how much the coaching staff, because it seemed like they were like, hey, let's keep this simple. They didn't want him launching the ball down the field, and that's fine. So let's see how much he starts earning their trust, and they open other opportunities for him to get the ball down the field a little bit. But I don't see them forcing anything, because one of the positives, obviously, from this game was we didn't turn the ball over. And when you're not turning the ball over, you have a way better chance of winning a football game.
Yeah, with Deontay Foreman running hard, there's some talk that the Bears may get Roschon Johnson back this week. I know Coach Eberflus said that today, that he's possibly he has one more step to overcome, but he should be out of concussion protocol by the time they practice on Wednesday. So you'll have another running back there. You have Foreman, you'll have Johnson. I thought Darrington Evans has looked really good the last
Yeah.
couple weeks. So he's another option to have. I'm sure he'll still stick around because Herbert's still on IR. So pound the ball against the Chargers. The Chargers are a pretty good team. So,
Yep.
Pound the ball, take what the defense gives you, and maybe they'll give you some deep shots here. So let's take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back on the other side with the everyone's favorite, the 3 Bears. That's exactly how Jeff says it. I had to say it just like him. All right. All right, we are back on Bear and Balanced. Taylor Dahl is our guest host this week because JB is on vacation. And right before we went to the break, you talked about your last Making Monsters, which was your Tyson Bagent episode. So if you guys have not had a chance to check that out yet, that's a really good episode. She talked to, like you said, his OC at Shepherd and his high school football coach. It's just cool hearing those perspectives and getting a little bit of secondhand knowledge about the guy, the player, the person behind the football player. It's always fun to see. So let's jump into this. So we're going to go with our hot bowl of porridge. So Taylor, who do you got this week?
So I listed 2 because I was like, if you were going first, I wanted to have a backup just in case. But I'll go with
always
the first.
Professional right there. I love it.
I'll go with the first one that popped in my head, and I have to go Jalen Johnson on this one. I think that, especially this last week, there was a lot of chatter. We did our article of if we thought we were going to be buyers, sellers, or what the Bears should possibly do, and that was obviously one of the names that popped up that could be potential trade. And I hope not. I hope we keep Jalen Johnson. And I think that this week really showed the one thing that we've been waiting for is for him to snag an interception. That's one of the things that had been lacking, and he gets 2 in this game. So I just think it was ideal. And when some of the numbers I was looking at, 2 receptions allowed for 16 yards, 2 interceptions, 2.8 passer rating allowed against him. So it's one of those things. That's the type of game you expect Jalen to be able to have week in and week out. And to our point earlier in the episode, I think a lot of it is because the front is helping. So they're able to make more plays now deep because they're not having to cover 60 yards of field. They're really able to kind of do their job. And you were able to see that for Jalen. And it was fun to watch him be able to do it multiple times because I know he's been wanting it for a while.
The one knock on him in his career, obviously, well, the interceptions come. Those are fluky. They come, you really can't control that a lot of the times.
Yeah.
If you're getting past defense, you're knocking the ball down. That's what you want to see. He's a physical player, which is obviously good for the Bears. But then it's the injuries. He's every year he's had some time on IR, or it seems like, so if he has to stay healthy, he clearly wants to get paid. We saw him with the camera there on Fox, doing the, making it rain a little bit there. He wants to get paid. He talked about after the game that's a direct message he's sending. He wants to stay in Chicago. And today he was just on local Chicago radio 670 The Score, saying he believes his agent now is still talking to the Bears to try to get an extension done. So
okay.
I'm like you. I want to see Jalen Johnson stay. He's 24 years old. We did do that trade deadline article last week because he's the one guy, though. If the Bears were truly going to just say, hey, look, that's it. The season's pretty much lost.
Yeah.
Let's try and move some guys we can, especially if they weren't going to re-sign him. If they're going to re-sign him, re-sign him. But if they're not going to re-sign him, if the talks break down, then they may as well move him. But like I said, I'm like you. I want to see him stay. For me, I had 2 guys written out. I did have Johnson, but I got to go Deontay Foreman. 89 rushing yards, 16 attempts, 5.6 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns rushing, 3 receptions, 31 yards, and a touchdown. He did have the 1 drop early, which, I'm sure he's really pissed off about.
Yeah.
But just a good game. Runs hard. We saw him last year in Carolina just run really hard, close to 1,000 yards in like half a season. He's a quality football player. Again, the knock on him has been the stuff in the passing game. 3 catches. Like I said, the 1 drop, it happens, but, he's working on it. We got to see him get a little better in the pass blocking, but regardless, he runs hard, he runs downhill, he hits the hole. He's very decisive. That's the one thing he does. And he runs with power. He beats on a defense.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff you want to see. He kind of reminds me a little bit of David Montgomery as far as the physical presence there. I think him and Roshan or him and Herbert, whoever it is, it's a good problem to have when you have a lot of guys you have to get the ball to. So Foreman, Johnson, this week's hot. Other side, we got to flip it.
Yeah.
Who is the cold bowl you got this week that didn't really perform up to expectations?
So for this one, I honestly was trying. I had to think about it, which is good. Like it wasn't an obvious pick, and because I was watching you guys from last week, and I was like, you could have picked multiple cold bowls. And so this week, for me more so, I just kind of did a generic pass rush, just because I think that at some point, we mentioned it, we expect it to start maybe turning a corner soon, but I do think you have to find ways to add some more pressure, get to the quarterback. When we're facing guys like Sam Howell and Brian Hoyer, you can get away with maybe not completely tearing them down. But when you're facing a guy like Justin Herbert, if you're not making him make quick decisions and possibly force some turnovers, and you do not want to give Justin Herbert time to throw the ball. He's going to get it to one of his many weapons. He does have some turnover issues in certain situations. I read a stat the other day about he has like the leading in fourth quarter interceptions for active quarterbacks right now. And so if you can really get to somebody like Justin Herbert and force some mistakes, that's when things really start to shift. And so I think that we're seeing the run do really well, but I need to see some more quarterback pressures in general.
Yeah, we mentioned Ngakwe. He's the one guy that you trust off the edge, and he's been kind of quiet. I think Dexter gets a nice push up the gut there, but
Yeah.
If you got an experienced quarterback like Hoyer, he was getting the ball pretty quick. He's not trying to sit back there. But then you mentioned next week Justin Herbert. He if you don't pressure him at all, he's going to just sit back there. He'll move around. He'll scramble.
Yep.
He will make the defense pay. So you got to figure out a way to get after the pressure, and whether that's scheming up some blitzes, trying to free up some guys, running some stunts up front. Flus has done a pretty good job these last few weeks to bring more pressure than usual.
Yeah.
I think this may be the week coming up on Sunday night where he has to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So for my cold, this is a special team stand type of podcast. We always but this week I got to go Trenton Gill.
Okay.
He didn't have the best game punting, 3 punts, just a 40-yard average. His first punt was nice, but then after that, he kind of tanked it. One, he got a really bad roll on, the other one, he kind of shanked. I just feel we got to be fair. We usually, throw a bone to Trenton Gill when he does good. He's the guillotine. He's baby's guy, but this week, like you said, it's hard. I mean, when the Bears score 30 points and everyone's doing good, it's hard to find the guy, but he's the guy this week, Trenton Gill. So.
Oh, Gill. It was bound to happen at some point. Everyone has the game.
It's funny, like we're in a chat and when things are going really bad, with the team, everyone gets attacked at some point.
Yeah.
And Trenton Gill the last few weeks kind of got, he had his moments, but I think overall he's a decent Bear. But this week, Trenton Gill. So what about you for your just right? Who's the Bear that kind of performed just as you expected him to?
Yeah, this one, I'm actually going a little off key, I think, for this one, but it was a name that I mentioned earlier that I liked how he kind of became more involved in this offense this week, and it's Tyler Scott. I think several third down conversions we saw from Scott and critical moments. One was a long 3-and-5, another one was like a shorter 3-and-1. But I feel like for the first time we've seen it when it came to returns, but this is the first time that I feel like I've really seen it in a game and moments that you were like, okay, there's Tyler. Like we're finally seeing some of this guy, and you were seeing his speed. That's one thing we talked a lot about in the offseason was how fast he is, and you saw it several times this obviously yesterday about how quick and how speedy he can be, and when he has the ball in his hands, he can make some plays. So it's fun for me to kind of see someone like this get involved a little more, and I do think that maybe part of it is because him and Bagent may have a little more time, because obviously in the preseason and when they're working with the twos, it was probably they were working a lot together more than probably Fields was during the offseason. So I think you saw that. It was noticeably, and it wasn't anything massive. It's not like he had 100 yards or something. I think it ended up being, it was like 14 rushing on a couple carries, 19 on a couple of receptions. But I think the third down conversions were one of the things that really stood out. And you felt that comfort between him and Bagent, because it was almost like, okay, we have to get this first down. Tyler's there. I know DJ made a comment about one of the balls because he I guess used like his chest to catch the ball, and DJ Moore made a comment that he has to talk to him about that. But I was like, he got the ball, he caught it. DJ Moore dropped it in the end zone. We could have had another touchdown there, but so I think someone like that, it's just fun. These are the guys that you spent draft picks on, so it's fun to see them look successful.
Tyler Scott's getting a chance now with Chase Claypool gone. He kind of the guy that steps into that role. Like you said, he had a couple carries, he had a couple catches, he had some nice third down plays. Yeah, this is the kind of game you expect out of your rookie receiver. Get
Mhm.
in there, scheme him up a little bit for some touches because he has that great speed, and the Bears
Yep.
did that. They got him schemed up. Plus, like I said, he got open on third down, and Bagent found him. So that's a good call there. I'm going to stay with the receiving core for my just right. I'm going to go DJ Moore. 8 receptions, 54 yards. The yards aren't what you expect, but it was a shorter check down type of game plan. A lot of deep stuff.
Yeah.
He did get some yards after catch, but just having a guy like DJ Moore there, for Tyson Bagent, I just think that's really big for him because he has to know that, okay, if things break down, he can trust going to DJ Moore. We heard Justin Fields and more talk about the faith throws, how they kind of had that rapport where he just knows if he throws the Moore, he'll come down with it. And I think that's what Bagent's going to learn here this week and learn the next week.
Definitely.
Just a nice guy to have there, kind of have the tight ends you would like to have to kind of take that role, but it just didn't work out this week. Maybe they had a little extra defense on tight ends because it was, the tight end holiday here for these guys. So, but
Yeah.
DJ Moore, he's my just right this week.
Yeah, DJ's just he's accountable, and like it's one
Yes.
of the guys you can just count on. And it's so nice to have that because it's been a while for us that we feel like we've had a receiver that we're even yes, you say the yardage maybe not what you want, but that was just part of the game plan for this week was making things and fitting them around Tyson Bagent and what he was comfortable doing right away. And he made a comment this last week that he would do whatever they asked him to do and he would be able to do it. And you kind of saw that. We did, like we said, we didn't see the deep passes, but we saw that there was some connection there with a lot of multiple receivers and different weapons, and they were all being used in different ways. And that's really fun to watch an offense that you don't feel like has to do the same thing over and over again, like the first few weeks that we were seeing. You're really seeing that they have guys, and it's fun to see. DJ Moore is just a player. Like when he's out there, you're expecting something to happen based around him. So yeah, I love that choice.
It's fun seeing Moore just because he's a legit number one.
Yeah.
The Bears schemed some touches up for him. They had that little the flip out of jet sweep to him to kind of get him. He almost got him for the touchdown there, but a little short. He'll get his. It's good to see Getsy being creative now to try and work some of his guys in with touches.
Yeah.
Hopefully Getsy has turned the corner. I mean, we kind of
Yeah.
saw Justin Fields, those 2 huge games he had. As Bears fans, we're all thinking, oh man, Getsy did it. He finally turned things around. And then, of course, that ridiculous game plan he had against the Vikings, we're all just like questioning it again. So now here we are back on Getsy. It's just the Getsy roller coaster. I want off. I think we're all going to get off
I
at the end
know.
of the season. I just think that they're going to make a change. But, who knows? I mean, maybe we're all Bears fans. We all have this hope. Maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe the defense has turned it around. The offense turned it around. We'll see what happens here against the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. But it's going to be a tough game. I know they're 8.5-point underdogs. Sunday Night Football prime time. It's going to be Tyson Bagent show. I mean, that's going to be what
Yeah.
NBC is really hyping up. They already started hyping him up on the game last night.
Yeah.
They're already excited. It's the Chicago market. I knew they would never flex that game out of it.
I know.
Because they want Chicago.
I know.
It's LA, so it's going to happen. Though, so.
There's a reason where every year, no matter if the Bears win 3 games or 10, that we have 4 or 5 primetime games. It's just what it is. And people down here in Jacksonville get so mad. They're like, we don't understand how you guys, and I'm like, I honestly don't want them. Like, I would love to just have a 1:00 game to where I can like have the rest of the day to just watch everybody else's football later and not be stressed until 8 p.m. But at the same time, it's a cool moment for Tyson. That's another thing I talked about on my podcast a lot. Both coaches just kind of saying that like, he's just that type of guy that the moment's never too big for him. And you saw last week, he looked comfortable. He looked like it was his offense and he was running his offense. And for an undrafted rookie to come in and feel that comfortable. Now let's see if he can do it in primetime football, because that's a whole other level when it comes to the stage and how many people are going to be watching him.
It should have a lot of Bears fans there. I know Bears fans usually travel pretty well. Plus LA doesn't have a lot of LA fans. It's a lot of transplants. So it should be fun. So Taylor, who do you have on Making Monsters? What's the show this week? Who you going to spotlight?
So that's what I've been going back and forth today, but I think I'm going to go Foreman. I
Okay.
usually I try to stick to rookies
Yeah.
but sometimes, especially this year, just because they made a decent amount of free agent moves. And I think that, people know they're familiar with Deontay Foreman, obviously, but maybe they don't know as much about his time in college and kind of the path because he's been on a lot of football teams in the NFL,
Yeah.
obviously drafted by Houston. So I think that's the way I'm going to go. I do have a couple others that I've been like teetering on, waiting. I have a Javon Dexter one that I really want to get out there too, but I'm just waiting for that game where I'm like, it's undeniable that I have to pick Javon Dexter,
Yeah.
and I feel it coming too. So probably between them two, but I think I'm going to go Foreman this week.
Preseason, you did talk to some Florida beat writers that covered Dexter, so that was kind of cool that during the pre-draft process you hit on a few of the guys that the Bears actually drafted. That was kind of neat.
Yeah, it was fun because it was Dexter and Pickens and Wright, obviously. Those three guys I kind of did the like pre-draft coverage on. So it was cool. And being here in close to Gainesville, there's a lot of Florida fans here and a lot of access to kind of that. And so that's why I actually I've already kind of pre-recorded the interview because like I said, I had a feeling that the Javon Dexter one's coming soon. So I talked to Shane Matthews, former Chicago Bear quarterback Shane Matthews, and it was a really fun convo because beyond even just Javon Dexter we got into, but Justin Fields Thursday night had broken his record that was held since like 2000 of consecutive completions. So we talked about that a little bit. We talked about his time in Chicago. So it was really fun. So I'm ready to get that one out there. But like I said, I think I'm just waiting for that big splash game where you're like, all right, it's Dexter's week,
Sunday Night Football, Javon Dexter going to get 2 sacks. That way you can kind of get it all primed up and you're ready to go. So Taylor, I want to appreciate you jumping on. Let everyone know where they can follow you on Twitter because I always mess up your handle.
It's okay. So it's at Taydol1010XL. That's where you will find me on Twitter. So usually pretty active, and I try to keep it a good balance because, like you mentioned in the beginning of the show, I do cover the Jaguars too, and so I don't want like all my Bears fans to get annoyed with too much Jag stuff, but I don't want the Jags fans to get annoyed with too much Bear stuff. So I try to get a sprinkle a little bit of everything in there, but I feel like a lot of weeks it ends up being a lot of Bears.
Well, that's you're a Bears fan first and foremost. So that's natural to come through. So you guys on the podcast side of things, thank you so much for joining us. You guys on the video side of things, we'll stick around for a little while and go through some questions here if there's any in the comments. But for Taylor, I'm Lester. Thank you guys so much, and bear down. I had to write this down. I'm gonna give Jeff such a hard time. Okay, cool. Taylor, that was great, man. I appreciate you jumping on and helping us out here. We'll kind of see what we got here over here. Look at Chris. 75th screen pass drink. If you're drinking on every Getsy screen call,
you're
drunk. You're drunk. You're drunk. That's
the amount of times during that Tampa game, we had a big group. It was a lot of Bears fans there, obviously. Like you said, they travel well, and there's a lot in Florida. And so we were sitting there, and our whole section was Bears, pretty much. There's maybe like 5 Bucks fans, and everybody was like, "Is Matt Nagy calling the plays right now? Like, what is happening?" And we were all like, "Oh, it's a Nagy play again." So thank goodness it seems like we've have adjusted at least a little bit. And like you said, who knows? Because then the next week we feel like it's back to Getsy trying to sabotage us again. So I can't quite figure it out.
Yeah, for a while there, Matt Eberflus's defense was giving up over 25 points a stretch. So Eric Bono here pulled a nice stat, 3-game streak holding teams under 25 points.
Love it.
So
those are the streaks I want to see.
This defense, maybe it is, Coach Eberflus. I mean, I think, he's calling the plays now. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that's what he did in Indy. And that was, he kind of made the best of what he had when it came to weapons. And it was a couple bigger names, but for the most part, it was guys that you may recognize, but not big splash guys that you're seeing week to week. And it was all different guys making plays on the defensive line. And you're kind of seeing that now. It's not every week that Javon's making the big plays. This week we saw Justin Jones do it. And so that's kind of like Flus's specialty when it comes to that. It's interesting because we don't even have a defensive coordinator. And so, like you said, he's being that guy, and it looks like it's worked because 3-game streak holding teams under 25 when I think we were at like 14 straight with 25 plus previous to that. So that's definitely one of those boxes I was talking about earlier, like good to check those off and be done with that losing part of the streak.
So the Bears won 2 of their last 3. They should have beat a couple of those teams coming up here, but But what do you think? I mean, I'm out on Flus. I'm out on Getsy. I just think that at this point, the way the franchise is, they've got to make a clean break after the season
Hmm.
and move on. They just got to do it, especially if they're going to change quarterback. And that's what it seems like they're going to do. As much as we both like Justin Fields, we want him to succeed in Chicago. It seems like that ship has sailed. There's obviously time where they can kind of turn things around. But do you think there's any chance that this coaching staff, this regime, does enough to kind of save their jobs this season?
I could see Flus saving his job. Getsy, I'm not totally sure. I think, like you said, it's just such a roller coaster up and down of Luke Getsy, and you feel like it took 7 weeks last week to finally feel like he was doing what he should do with Justin Fields, and that was one of the things that I was seeing this whole week of, like him making comments about them building this offense around Bagent's strengths this week. And I'm like, okay, well, do the same for Justin Fields. I don't get it, but him, I just don't think that they're going no matter what. I think even if this offense does start to continue what they're doing and scoring 30 points and looking like they're fluid, I just think that there's not much he can do to kind of flip that around, because we've made the point where there's just too much inconsistencies and there's too many major question marks and flags of games that we've lost directly correlated to offensive play calling. And that cannot be a situation when you are trying to decide who your franchise quarterback is going to be and if he's going to stay or not. So, but for me, I think that Eberflus does have an opportunity, because we see what the defense is looking like now in the midst of I don't even think we talk a ton about, because no one really knows what's going on with Alan Williams, but it was a situation where that was kind of chaotic. That was big. A lot of times that can break locker rooms when something like that happens, because there's the negative stigma that's around it and the negative limelight, and that's what you do not want. And I feel like Eberflus was kind of able to tie it up, put it away, and we've seen the defense get better. And so to me, I think that there's a way that at the end of the year, they're like, let's get rid of let's get rid of Getsy. Yeah. We'll go find another offensive coordinator for Flus to really, be able to hand pick himself. And now that you do know the strengths, and this is all depending on what happens the rest of the year. If the Bears only win one more game this season, there's no question that everybody's gone. But if at the end of the year, especially with what our division's looking like, and the NFC in general, half the teams in the NFC are right around the same record as us, under 500. And so if at the end they're making a little run and things are looking like it's an improvement on both sides of the ball, I think that he could potentially get given another year.
Yeah, he's in the midst of the worst record of a Bears coach in the history of the team. But the team's still playing hard. I mean, there is no these guys are quitting on their coach. I mean, that's not happening. This is so. I mean, it's possible. I mean, I think a lot of Bears fans thought this would be like a 7-win team, 8-win team, maybe 9 if things go right for them. So there's a chance. I mean, if they put a couple wins together, I mean, there's still not a very difficult stretch here. I mean, it's a pretty easy schedule. So there's a chance you get some wins here. It's good to see, even though JB's on vacation, we have his number one Bears fan is still in the chat. Jenkins looking good yesterday. Yes, Jenkins, I think PFF had him with no quarterback pressures. So he's just, he's that dude, he needs to keep it up. Chris jumps in. Bagent did his job. Let's be happy. FFS. Yeah, social media was so strange yesterday.
I know.
It's so much anger.
I'm like, you scored 30 points and it's Raiders team that isn't completely awesome, but it has playmakers like Devontae Adams, and they were 3-3 coming into this, and you pretty handily from start to finish was able to beat this team with your backup quarterback. And I think that you have to give him a round of applause, because Bagent handled it like a champ.
Talk about Jalen Johnson. Eric pulled the quote from the score. Yeah, I mean, it's a process, but things are, I would say, hopefully starting to ramp up. We'll see where things go, especially the next week for the trade deadline. That's Jalen Johnson. And then Eric followed up with the question, what's the most you pay to keep JJ? I think Brad Spielberger kind of tweeted out some comps. Jamel Dean, Buccaneers cornerback. I think 14-15 million a season. That's just what the going rate is for these guys.
Yeah.
If he's looking to kind of be comparable to some of the same guys that are kind of in his wheelhouse there, I think that's something you kind of want to bring him back. But if he's looking for the top of the market, as much as I like Jalen Johnson, he does have the injury questions. He only has 3 career interceptions.
Yeah.
If he's looking for top dollar, then like we said, I think then you have to entertain possibly trading him. But if it's comparable, Taylor, bring it back, right?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And I think for someone like Jalen, I've mentioned this on my podcast before because I ended up seeing a stat one time that was showing the Bears have the fewest second contracts of their drafted players in the
Yes.
NFL. They do not, they've been known to get rid of the guys. And then you see guys like Leonard Floyd go on and be studs somewhere else. And I'm tired of seeing that. So at some point, if we're building, we need this good mixture of guys who that you draft, because that's why you draft. You draft to
Yeah.
try to find this talent. And every time you feel like you have to pay somebody, you get rid of them. It's frustrating to me. When you have somebody who is able to do what Jalen, yes, you want more interceptions and you want to see him healthy. So that number, I think, does kind of depend on that. But at some point, you have to start re-signing these guys. You have to start building your roster, and the best rosters in the league are ones that are a good combination of the veterans guys that they've been able to draft, and then the young guys. And when those start to mesh, and you really have the confident veterans that can come in and take over this room. We have a very young secondary, and so to even say that Jalen is your veteran, but he is, like, he's that guy, and so you can tell that the secondary is different when he's on the football field. Him and Brisker's only in year 2, obviously, but you feel the difference when they're on the football field, and that's something that you have to stop just giving away because you don't want to pay somebody. We're in a league now where you're going to have to pay these guys. They're getting paid everywhere.
24 years old. He's still relatively young. I think it's a no-brainer. If they can figure out the money right, I think you got to bring him back. Another guy kind of the same boat as Darnell Mooney. He's in his contract season. I'm sure the year is not going like he hoped it would, but he's picking up here and there. And I think he had 3 or 4 catches yesterday. Where are you on Darnell Mooney? You think Darnell Mooney should come back?
Yeah, I love Mooney, and I think that. Yeah. Every year I feel like the past few years I've been talking about Darnell Mooney and like this is the year, and especially this year because you did get DJ Moore and you knew that, okay, last time Darnell Mooney was able to be the wide receiver number 2 is when he had that year that everyone was like, okay, like this is what Darnell Mooney can do. And like he makes incredible catches. He's not a big guy. He still gets up in the air. He gets those 50-50 catches when he needs to. And for someone his size, 5'11", 5'12", whatever he is, like you don't see that often. And he's able to play multiple ways. And I think the previous years he was kind of, especially last year, forced to be a 1, and he's just not. He's I think a high tier 2 number 2 wide receiver, but that's another guy for me. It's another weapon that you have that has some comfortability in this offense, and he can make plays when other people are injured. We've seen him in the past being able to have these big, massive games, and getting him involved. Whatever Luke Getsy's doing, I don't really know because, like we mentioned, every other week it's different. But getting him more involved, I would like to see. But I would love to see Mooney back.
Yeah, I think again, same kind of thing. If the price is right, bring him back. Kind of see what he's looking for. I mean, we kind of saw the Bears have to make a decision on David Montgomery.
Mm-hmm.
There was some talk that he was looking for a higher deal. Obviously, he went and got a pretty nice contract with the Lions. So, if Mooney's if it's the same situation, if he's willing to kind of come back and take something that's comparable, I think he comes back. He's good for the city of Chicago. He's a good locker room guy. I would love to see it. So, but that's probably a good place to stop here. We're almost at an hour here. So, Taylor, you're going to have Making Monsters this week.
Yep.
Podcast will drop on Thursday. Are you Thursday morning? I always get my schedule.
So technically, like depending on interviews. So most of the year I've been doing Friday morning. This last week I dropped it on Thursday because it was the Bagent episode. The Bagent episode, and I felt like we wanted to get that out there, get people to know a little bit more about Tyson Bagent, and have the few days to really learn about him before the podcast. But usually it's Friday mornings is when I'll drop it.
So the next time we'll be back here on the Second City Gridiron, I'm actually going to guest for JB on Bears Over Beers. I have a special beer for that episode. So make sure you guys tune in because I'm not a drinker. I'm not a big fan of the taste of beer, but I got something special just for this show. So make sure you guys tune in for that. So for Taylor, I'm Lester. Until next time, bear down. Thanks again.
Bye, guys.